Republican Representative Ken Buck has fired back at Lauren Boebert after she implied that his decision to leave was a ploy to prevent her from getting elected. Yes, a conspiracy, a backroom deal to benefit someone who's not Lauren Boebert. Now, Boebert had issued a statement following Buck's announcement that he is retiring at the end of next week, calling his resignation a quote-unquote swampy backroom deal to try to rig an election. Rig an election. Somehow. I can't really tell you how exactly that works into rigging an election, but somehow that's what Boebert comes up with. Okay. She then issued a fundraising appeal, claiming that Buck was trying to let the quote-unquote uniparty rig this race. Ah, yes. The true reason revealed. To use it as a fundraising ploy, because of course, right? So Buck had responded to this, basically calling Boebert's claims ridiculous, which is entirely true. According to the Colorado Sun, he said her allegations were both ridiculous and fundamentally unfair. Quote, "I'm not giving anybody an advantage or disadvantage. In fact, I have done my very best to stay out of this primary election." And he is right about this. After all, and he pointed this out in the interview, that he had refrained to comment on Boebert's ex-husband's arrest or her 18-year-old son's arrest, for the crime spree that he allegedly went on. As well as, I don't know, and I know this is not part of the charges, but he had made a sex tape with a minor, a 17-year-old. Oops. And yet, Ken Buck was like, I didn't mention any of that. I could have went really, really hard on Lauren Boebert. I could have went harder on her than she made her date during that whole Beetlejuice thing. But no, didn't mention a damn thing. Okay. He, for lack of a better phrase, decided not to touch any of that with a 10-foot pole. Okay. Had he been rigging this election, he would have been all over TV flaming the hell out of Boebert. Once again, like her Beetlejuice date. It's not like there's not a truck filled with ammunition he could use against her, but he decided not to because he actually didn't want to hurt anybody's chances or help anybody's chances. His reasons for quitting are his alone. In fact, he said that the timing of his announcement and resignation date was motivated by the frustration he had with congressional inaction, as well as to limit the taxpayer cost for a special election by having it happen the same day as Colorado's June 25th primary. Now, Matt McCrane, head of the Colorado County Clerks Association, said there is added costs either way, but if it is combined with the primary, there's a lot less cost. So that reasoning checks out. So it looks like, from my perspective, he's telling the truth and she's lying in order to raise money. At least that's one of the reasons she's lying. Secondly, I think that she wants to blame Ken Buck for her failure to make inroads with the voters in that district. So there's that, okay? Instead of, looking at her own campaign and where she seems to have failed to resonate with a lot of voters in CD4, which is, even more conservative, she instead wants to blame Ken Buck and the shadowy swamp monsters. I know. Anything to not take responsibility for herself. And, of course, there's also the issue of her being an embarrassing carpetbagger. Look, Boebert's mad because the special election will give the person who wins it, whoever wins it, an advantage that she does not have. That's incumbency. Now, she would have that advantage if she stayed in her own district in CD3. But because very likely she was going to lose CD3 to the Democratic challenger, who managed to outraise her and nearly beat her in the last election, she decided to pick up, move over to CD4, where she thought she would have an advantage. I mean, that district favors Republicans. So she thought that she just breezed through that primary with her Trump endorsement. And unfortunately for her, she seems to have overestimated her chances in doing that. Now, I'm not saying she couldn't win this district, but it's a challenge now. It's a lot more difficult than she thought, which means she might actually have to work for it. And God forbid, can't let that happen, right?
Can't let that happen.
Now, the reason, by the way, that she decided not to jump into the special election is, again, because she would have had to resign her 3rd district seat. So now she told a radio host on Thursday that there's no chance that I will participate in the special election because I'm not going to resign in the middle of my term to further imperil the House majority, which is already super thin to begin with, okay? With all these resignations, as well as the booting of former Representative George Santos, a.k.a. Katara Ravache, whatever you want to call him. And so there you go. Boebert obviously not taking this very well and forcing Ken Buck to have to set the record straight.